This is Stephen Kotler, and you're listening to Your Superior Self.
Hi, I'm Anita Murjani, and this is Your Superior Self.
This is Christina Rasmussen, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, Cultural Creatives. I'm Bruce Lipton, and I'm here to join you with Your Superior Self.
Hi, this is Paul Selig, and this is Your Superior Self.
What's up, everybody? I'm Aubrey Marcus, and this is Your Superior Self.
What is up, beautiful people? Welcome back. I'm Trey Downs, and this is Your Superior Self. Thank you guys for taking the time to hang out with me today and listen to this magnificent podcast. If this is your first time listening, please hit subscribe, leave a rating and a review. It helps me scale the show. It helps me scale this podcast to those who might need it the most. And if you're returning, thank you for coming back. But make sure you share, because sharing is good. It's how we get the message out. That's how we get this out to the masses. It's how we get it out to those, I'm telling you, that need to hear it, that need to awaken, that need to be around people vibrating at a higher rate, so that way we can shift this consciousness that is around us, and that way we can awaken the superior selves that we are. Yes. Let's get after it. Today I have on the show Maureen Pelton and Charlie Hartwell, two fantastic beings who are so fun to talk to. Maureen, she's dedicated her life to shifting the consciousness of humanity and institutions. She is a highly sought after consultant among entrepreneurs, tech leaders, and people on the path of awakening, just like you listening to this podcast right now. You're on your path. Maureen's here today to talk to you, so is Charlie. Charlie started his first business, H&H headquarters, in second grade. No, he was not selling lemonade. He's been an avid entrepreneur ever since. He took a traditional path through Wall Street and Harvard Business School, but his postgraduate work for major corporations left him unfulfilled. Like many people that I seem to conspire on this show with, seem to be at some point unfulfilled, and they seek higher learnings. And that's what happened to Charlie. A series of spiritual awakenings put him on his current path. And today, Charlie is the managing director of Bridge Builders Collaborative, a group of investors focused on mental wellness, consciousness, and spiritual-based startups. Fantastic work. We need more of this. We need more focus on mental wellness, consciousness, and spiritually based organizations, so that way we can be so much more happier. I don't know what else to say. There's nothing more I can add to that, but let's be happy. Let's move towards our purpose and our reason why we're here. And that is to help each other. We're as Ram Dass would say, we're all just walking each other home. And to give you a little bit of a preview, here's a clip of what's to come.
So I had a spontaneous mystical experience when I was 21, and I have, I have them all. I have clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognizance, I have them all. Plus, I can channel energies, and I can work with the other side.
I love that. It must be hard on you, Charlie. How often do you win an argument?
Oh, wow. Nobody's ever asked me that question. I don't think I've ever won an argument. And what's a real gift. So I grew up in a family system where we just told each other lies all the time, but it made it seem like, we weren't. I mean, it was so passive aggressive. And in meeting Maureen, one of the gifts, and also, one of the challenges, or especially early on, is I can't, she knows if I'm lying.
Oh, I love all of that. I'm just so lucky that I don't have a wife who can read my mind. How much would that just take all the fun out of it if you were how us guys where we have something that we know we're right, like we have that point, we're going to make that point in the argument, but the wife is psychic and can read your mind and knows what you're getting ready to say and ruins it for you. So thankful that that isn't me, but I very rarely make valid points. So I am, I need that lower probability rate of happening for me so that I feel excited in heated battles. But this conversation was fun. I mean, we did talk about a lot of great modalities that they're providing for people at the Shifted Institute, like quantum neuro reset therapy. And Maureen talks about that here and how they utilize it there at the Institute and how it helps people and facilitates science and the spiritual healing realm and the holistic modality realm. And it's all about connecting with your true source. It's all about connecting with the isness that is you. It's all about healing and being receptive to that, raising your awareness and your consciousness to tap back into that heart center where we're all just kind of ignoring right now, and we need to get back into it and feel. Go back to what Maureen talks about in this interview about going back to when we were 5 and 7 years old, when all we did was just feel our environment. We didn't really get into those beta brainwave states and become an adult and start thinking rationally and left-brained and analytical type of thoughts. We were just so creative. We were right-brained. We were kind of just flowing in the flow, and that's where we need to reconnect. And Charlie and Maureen are doing that with a lot of their clients, and it's great work. It's fun work. You guys are gonna love it. We are igniting consciousness over here today. Before we get into it, though, I want to remind you of my sacred activism. Yes, sacred activism. Andrew Harvey coined that term because it is something that breaks your heart. And whatever breaks your heart, you go after and you bring awareness to it, or you try to do something and be in service of that. And my sacred activism is children suffering, children being exposed to a cruel world at a very early age. And I want to recognize the children, abandonedchildrensfund.org. Okay, I didn't say that clear enough. The abandonedchildrensfund.org. Go to their site, read their work, read their mission, get the background on them, check them out, donate if you can. If you can't, just bring awareness, share their page. But what they're doing is they're going into these countries that are very, they're just so, they're just war torn. They're just underprivileged. They have these families that have 7, 8, 9 kids and they cannot feed them. So they go and they do what they think they have to do. And that is to give them up. They go into the cities, they drop them off. And this organization brings these children into their facilities and they give them love. They give them food. They give them medical attention, clothing, whatever. And they give it all to them. And they try to nurse them back to just being themselves. And I hope that you guys take a minute out of your day to research them, and then go to traydowns.com and leave me a message. Let me know what you're up to. I love hearing your stories. I love hearing what you guys are up to. I want to know when you tap into that heart. I want to know what that feels like for you. Leave me a message. I love it. So without further ado, here is my my conversation with the great and the powerful Maureen Pelton and Charlie Hartwell.
Hi, I'm Charlie Hartwell. I'm the operating partner of Bridge Builders Collaborative and a co-founder of the Shifted Institute.
Hi, I'm Maureen Pelton, a social scientist and co-founder of the Shifted Institute.
Maureen and Charlie, thank you guys so much for joining the show. I was saying earlier that I love things, consciousness, all things really. And you guys work with that on a daily basis. So this is going to be pretty fun. Let's this isn't my first rodeo with two people. So let's start this way. So Maureen, why don't you go ahead and give everybody a little background on your, what you're up to?
Sure. So currently we're working to raise consciousness on the planet. And we do that in a variety of ways. For example, I am a teacher on Insight Timer. In fact, this week, my course on conscious breathing is featured. We are investors in, and Charlie can speak more to that, but we are investors in not only the mental well-being and mental health field, but now going deeper, all related to trying to raise consciousness. And I serve on a number of nonprofit boards because I'm passionate about dismantling the patriarchy. And I'm married to Charlie, which is just fun every day.
Let's not forget that.
Every day.
Yeah. So I want to point this out, right? Before we get to you, Charlie, you guys say raise the awareness of, raise the consciousness of the world, right? Like I hear that quite a bit. Like, can you talk about that? Like, what does that look like? What is that really?
Yes, absolutely. This has been my passion for 35 years. And it really is about elevating people to understand that we are energetic or spiritual beings in physical form having a human experience. This isn't it. There's many levels of consciousness and awareness, and to be aware of how conditioned and programmed we are from the moment of our conception as human beings, and the entrainment we receive, whether it's from our family system, our culture, our religion, our schools. But consciousness is really about returning to who we truly are. Who are we and why are we here? And going beyond the limitations of the conditioning and the belief systems and the patterns and the habits.
Powerful stuff. Yeah. Programming, it is the worst. But what are you going to do? Charlie, give us some background on you. I think you're the business side of the house, right? Left brain.
Yes. Maureen has been in business as well, but that's my focus. I'm a Harvard Business School graduate. I've worked and led in 14 different industries in my career. I'm really passionate about helping build and co-create global movements. The movement that Maureen has described, which she actually got me into, is the movement that we're currently focused on. And I am my day-to-day work is as managing director of Bridge Builders Collaborative. We're a group of investors that invests in sort of Series A investments, startup companies in the space of mindfulness, mental well-being, consciousness, and spirituality. We were pioneers in that field. We were really the first serious investors that I know of in that field. And, we've invested in companies that not only have helped to, create opportunities for expanded consciousness, but have grown to be significant enterprises. So they've both done well from, an impact standpoint, but also from a financial standpoint.
How do you go from Harvard to consciousness? Like, what was there anything that happened along the road that
Maureen's raising her hand? So I come from a patriarchal system, multi-generations of that. I was uncomfortable in that system, but that system actually had some benefits in the sense that I was raised to achieve. So I went to an Ivy League school. I went to Harvard Business School. I'd worked in a bunch of different industries. And then I had sort of my moment of awakening, which, I would say that probably 18 years ago. And not far after that, I met Maureen. We were friends. And then we understood that we were more than friends, and that we've been, it's like we're on this planet and we really recognize each other from before this. It's like we've known each other for like a million years, but really Maureen's the one that got me into the space. She's the one that's been in the space for 35 or 40 years. and taught me an incredible amount, and actually introduced me to the Mind and Life Institute, which is where I met the partners that I now work with. And so, for me, that opportunity to sort of awaken was really to help me to find more of what my purpose was, and then actually to find how to actualize that in a business setting, which I'd been trained to be a leader in business.
Mm. Was there there was an experience though, right? That happened. Like you had this, like a spiritual experience, like something happened that really shook that loose in you, right? Like I think it had to do with your grandfather or your father.
Yeah. Well, it had to do with actually being really stubborn. And for me, it was like three forms of death. First, my father and grandfather, who had been my role models, they died within a couple of years of each other. Second of all, I'd always been successful business, and I was running a business that wasn't working out the way I wanted it to. So that was number two. Number three, I was in a marriage that had been dead for years, and I wasn't willing to admit it. And all that happened at sort of the same time. I actually had a dream one night that I was climbing the World Trade Center, and I knew what I was going to do when I got to the top. I'd never been suicidal, and I didn't wake up suicidal, but when I woke up that morning, I said, I need help. And that began sort of a process of discovery of what Maureen was describing before, like what was my conditioning? How, what roles was I serving that no longer served me? What were the stories that I was telling myself that no longer served me? So that was my moment to begin this journey that I'm still on, of expanding my own consciousness.
We said something that caught my eye, or caught my ear, I should say. You said that it feels like we've known each other for millions of years, or something. Like, have you guys done like past life regressions? Have you guys done any of that? Like, you want to tell me something? I feel it.
No, I mean, I'm trained in past life regression, so I've done a lot in my training, and I've facilitated a lot of them. And yeah, we know. I'm 26 days older than Charlie. He came in 26 days after me, and it's not it's synchronicity and synergy that we ended up together. We've known each other a long time. And what's really interesting is I have a daughter from my first marriage, and Charlie and my daughter are deeply connected from past lives. So we joke and say because I met Charlie through our kids. So I joke and say she's the one who called him in.
So do you have, I feel like I read in your profile that you have like gifts, right? Like you past life regressionist, which I love, by the way. I love all that stuff. I love it because to me, it's not like we're not here one and done, right? Like we're not here to try to be perfect and then go live an eternity on a cloud and that's it. Like we're here to progress as soul beings, right? Like as we're trying to know ourselves. We're trying to learn new things, whether that's good or bad. What are the gifts that you have? So
I had a spontaneous mystical experience when I was 21, and I have, I have them all. I have clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognizance, I have them all. Plus, I can channel energies, and I can work with the other side.
I love that. It must be hard on you, Charlie. Like, how often do you win an argument?
Oh, wow. Nobody's ever asked me that question. I don't think I've ever won an argument. And what's a real gift. So I grew up in a family system where we just told each other lies all the time, but it made it seem like, we weren't. I mean, it was so passive aggressive. And in meeting Maureen, one of the gifts and also, one of the challenges, especially early on, is I can't, like, she knows if I'm lying. Like the moment I speak it, it's like, that's bullshit. I don't think she's ever been incorrect when she's named that. with me or with anyone else that I know. So it's really I really want to acknowledge and honor her gifts, because I call her, in our family system, I call her the wisdom. Like, she's the multidimensional being who has all these gifts. And then, I'm the method. I'm down in sort of the third dimension. I know how distribution systems work. I know how to get ideas onto, this third dimensional reality through my business experience. And so it's amazing to live with someone that has these gifts. And, and that extends, I'm going to say, her gifts extend as like the most present mother I've ever met. Our kids, like, she just embodies unconditional love, not only to our kids, but to whomever she meets. So she didn't talk about that as a gift. That is just who she is. And so, to live, I have to say, to live with unconditional love, when for me, I was raised, everything was conditional. So that is such a bonus. And then sometimes that's hard, because Maureen will not allow me to be, less than I am capable of being. And she kicks my ass all the time.
That's awesome, though. Unconditional love. Like, that's unconditional. Like, just loving you for who you are, regardless of what it is you do. So you said since 21, you had Maureen, you had a mystical experience. Like, what was that? Like, that now that you have all the clears?
Yeah, I had to have back surgery, and the night before the surgery, the physician said, you may not wake up, you may be paralyzed. He went through all this, and he left, and I had to go to bed. And I was already a pretty spiritual person at that point in my life. I mean, I pretty much was my whole life. And so I was sitting in my bed in the hospital, and I just started praying. And I had this experience of really letting go of everything. I was willing to not wake up. I was willing to be paralyzed. I was willing to whatever. I realized in that moment that I was completely and utterly powerless. Sorry, our dog is barking.
No, it's all good.
Completely and utterly powerless. But my power was I had choice. So I could choose to have the surgery or not. That was my power. But in choosing to have the surgery, then I had to surrender. And so the moment I actually surrendered, which is really hard for people to understand. I mean, intellectually, you can get the concept, but to do it, like, I was willing to die. The minute I surrendered, I dissolved into the oneness. And I had this profound experience with this unconditional love, this dynamic stillness. And I got all these downloads, and I said in this experience, I agree to serve unconditional love. And I woke up, well, I was not asleep, but I came back and I went to sleep, and I woke up in ecstatic joy. Like, that the surgeon was like, are you on drugs? And I'm like, no, I'm just in ecstatic joy. And I had the surgery, and I was in ecstatic joy. And my recovery was miraculous. And I decided not to go to law school, but to go to grad school to try and find context for all of this and be in service to unconditional love. And my whole reality changed. I had to set boundaries with my family system and the people in my life so that I could achieve my purpose. And I have them all the time. I have spontaneous mystical experiences all the time. I mean, one of the things we're looking at investing in is the ecosystem around psychedelic assisted therapy, because it's curative. And what they're describing, I'm like, oh, I can do that if I just set my mind to it. Like, if I just sit down and say, I'm going to go into that place, I can get there.
So you're talking about the same, like, if I was on psilocybin or MDMA, you can go to those
easily.
Yeah. Is that, that's so amazing. I was thinking about this today. So when because I'm a big fan of Ram Dass. You said Harvard, right? Ram Dass,
Yeah,
Dick Alpert. He was big in LSD, but he was doing the psilocybin before. He talks about how psilocybin is, you're going into the astral plane, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. I've never experienced that. Can you, what is that?
The astral plane? Oh,
yeah.
you have experienced it.
I have.
Yes, because when we sleep at night, we often go onto the astral plane. And there are different forms of dreams. Like there's the precognitive dreams where you have a dream where something is going to happen and it does. There's deep psychological dreams where you're working things out, and those are crazy. And then there's astral dreams where you're literally on the astral with others and you feel like the dream is real. Like sometimes you think, did I dream that or did that actually happen? Or you wake up in the morning and you're like, that felt real.
Is that when I'm flying?
Yeah.
That's that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes we meet on the astral. So I have to say to him in this dimension, like, did we talk about this in person or did we do this on the astral? So like, if I say to people, when you go to bed at night, just set the intention that you have an astral experience and you remember it when you wake up. And it works for a lot of people.
Sure. Now, I'm a big fan of Robert Monroe. I don't know if you know him or not.
Yeah.
I've been trying to do that for, I just not see, I don't have a teacher, right? Like, so I don't, you're so lucky, Charlie, like you have your wife. Cause I've been doing the binaural beats. I've been trying to have these OBEs for myself because I want to know. I want to know for myself. I don't want to have a belief anymore. I want to have a knowing. And so I'm doing this astral projections, like I'm trying to do that. But you're right. It's funny though, because when I'm dreaming, I think it's real. Like I don't know that I'm dreaming, and then I wake up and I'm like, man, that was crazy. So that makes me think like, am I dreaming now? Like, it's just, what's the dream and what's the reality? Like it's that $1 million question. It's like, what is it here? What is really reality? What is this? Like, and Charlie, you're lucky you have a wife that has every gift in the book. You might not win an argument, but you might know what's on the other side.
That's not actually true. He's one argument. Sometimes I'm wrong. And I say, yeah, I was wrong.
Well, he's a brave man because I would never tell you. I mean,
I have no problem telling her.
Yeah.
It's just like, I've sort of learned like, okay, just shut up. Like, like I really know that. Like,
oh, that's so funny. Oh, that's awesome.
Sports or something. It's like, I really know that one. And that 1 in 100 time when I absolutely know I'm right, that's actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
That is fun. So I guess you can see, Maureen, like people's aurora, or I guess the energy around. Yeah. So does the Institute do work in this too, or is that something that you kind of do on the side?
No, I work with people one-on-one, and I have done a lot of teaching. I don't do that as much because I'm more involved. At this point in my life, I'm much more involved in working in the collective, like the big collective.
Universe.
But I do, work with individuals and help them, guide them, I teach them, I guess. The thing is, I don't think even though I'm a teacher, it's not really teaching, it's helping them remember.
Helping them remember.
Yeah. Helping them remember who they are and what their gifts are. And what you look at children and they're still connected. So they know, like it's just helping them remember, because we just get conditioned out of it and we stop trusting it. And so working with people is helping them remember and then build that muscle up again.
Well, how do we build that up? Like, how do I remember, like how is it that somebody like myself who is, that has the will, right? Like I have the will, like most people, I have the want. How do I build that muscle up?
Well, this is what's so challenging for humans is, you have to go into your body. Like it is an embodiment experience. It's not a brain experience. So if you think about it, when we're first born, when we come in our human form, our first level of awareness is our senses. That's it. Like what we sense. And then we begin to communicate with different cries, which we then identify as different emotions. And then eventually around the age of 6 or 7, our reasoning mind drops in, and we're in the school system and we're being entrained to be logical and linear and make sense. And it pulls us up and up and up. And we're then what I call living above the neck. So to really integrate and remember, we have to live in the body, which means, sensing, feeling, being. And when the minute the brain starts to make a story, make sense of it, argue with it, ruminate about it, we're out. We're out of our gifts. We're back up in our head. So how do you stay present? There's you take a breath, you pause, you notice, you observe, and you wait to see what unfolds. And that's what's so challenging for people, because they want the answer right away. I mean, I've worked with people and they're like, I just want to see, I just want to whatever. And I'm like, yeah, and I might be, if we just flip the switch, I might be visiting you in the mental hospital. I mean, you can't just, do that. It takes time. And what I say to people is play. Your imagination is a doorway. Play with it. None of us are 100% accurate. So just watch, observe, play, and see. And as you trust it, this is what happens. As you trust it more and more and more, it gets stronger and stronger. And I remember a really good example was, I have a brother who I'm close to, and I was out running one day, this was years ago, and his essence came to me, and he was a marine biologist, and he said, my purpose is to be a vet. I'm here to be a vet. So I got done with my run and I called my brother, and he's like, oh, I was just thinking of you. And I'm like, oh, I'm sure you were, because I was just talking to you. And he said, what? And I said, you're supposed to be a vet. And he goes, I would never be a vet. I would never, ever, ever be a vet. That's just the last thing. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, okay, I might be wrong. I'm just going to put that on the shelf, let go. 9 months later, I'm with him for Christmas, and he's filling out his vet school applications. He is now an aquatic medicine vet, and a really good one. So sometimes when we know, like, it's not, the other person doesn't even know yet. So you have to just put it on the shelf and go, let's see what happens.
That's amazing. Charlie, what makes you curious nowadays? Like, what is it that you're into? Like, I know consciousness, right? But do you ever feel like you want to explore the other side more? Or do you feel like you want to strengthen your gifts at all?
Absolutely, all the time. That's a simple answer.
Yeah. What kind of gifts do you have that you feel like you have?
Well, I have a gift of compassion. I have. When I'm present, I'm pretty good at reading people, and just and then my head can get in the way. So I have a good intuitive sense, in my work, for instance, if I meet an entrepreneur, I have a pretty good sense of whether that's pretty immediately, whether that's a good entrepreneur. And then I, on the downside of that, then if I start getting really excited about that, then my wife will kick my ass. And, one of the gifts, I think, so I have that gift, and for me, it's more, how do I remove the barriers to that gift? Let's see, what other gifts do I have?
How do you mix the two? How do you mix spirituality, mysticism with business? You know what I mean?
What? How?
Yeah, how do you do it? Can you do it? 1, and 2, how do you do it?
So I have so some of my other gifts, and I'm not very good at talking about my gifts, I'm realizing. I'm an amazing connector. I'm helping to co-create an industry, partly because when I meet someone, I sort of know who do they need to meet, or what is, what's their gift? What's their gift to the contribution to building this global movement? And so I'm really good at making those types of connections. So from a business sense, when I use that, if you talk to some of my entrepreneurs that we've invested in, they'd say, Charlie made some of the best connections that helped transform our business and created, tens of millions of dollars of economic opportunity. And I don't know how I do that. I just do it because I just have a sense. And I also think that what's interesting is is I have the ability to track the people at the right time. Like when a company needs something, all of a sudden somebody will show up. So it's not like I do know a lot of people. I'm probably in the space that we invest in. I'm probably one of the most connected people in the world. But if I'm not connected, it's just amazing how I can, help bring people in at the right time to help companies.
Yeah, and I need to add, because he's not good at talking about this, but he's an ingenious innovator. And with the companies, he like envisions where they can go. And since he's on the board of a lot of them, he gently suggests and invites the CEO. And then all of a sudden it's going in that direction. And it's really where it needs to go. And it's really growing and really having an impact. So his ability to innovate is a gift.
Yeah,
sure. Well, and having faith in that, right? And having faith in the universe that it's going to allow you to go in the direction that you need to go, that you'll make the connections that you need to make, that they'll come into the picture when they need to. Are you guys seeing like a big shift in like companies being more spiritual or and coming to you guys for help and asking for your advice and how they can, translate into being a more powerful leader, or not powerful, but more, I don't know, maybe powerful leader. I don't know if that's the right term, but are you guys seeing more of that?
Well,
I take that as a no.
Yeah, no, I think one of the biggest challenges is the integration and embodiment piece. I mean, there are entrepreneurs who have a weekend retreat and they are like, wow, like that was really cool. Now I'm going to go create this business. And we're like, no, you got to do your own work first. Like you got to like actually embody it. And then there's entrepreneurs and who have done their work and are doing their work. And you when Charlie meets them, he knows. I mean, one of the things with bridge builders is it's not just about the technology or the product. It's also about the entrepreneur and the team. Are these people committed? And so we kind of only work with people who are, and I do some advising, but we only work with people who are really on the self-discovery, personal sovereignty, awakening, transformative path.
Sure.
And so that's really our world.
Mm-hmm. I feel like if you're an entrepreneur and you go and you awaken, like you become less of an entrepreneur. Like I feel like you don't care anymore. Like how do you live in the 3D world?
I totally disagree with you. Actually, from what I say to entrepreneurs, and the reason why I look for people, not that they've like gone this far down the path or whatever, but that are committed to the path and that they're willing to let go and like peel away the layers, is actually because the more work they do, when you're the CEO of a company, the energy that you carry actually gets translated through the product that you create. And so your level of consciousness actually impacts the whole world that you're serving through your company. That's my perspective. And when the more work that someone does, when they know what their purpose is and they've got clarity, then all of a sudden work actually becomes really fun and it's not that same level of burden. So I think that the CEOs that are willing to do this kind of work, that they get more impassioned about what they're doing, and they might actually shift the business because of some work that they've done. On the other hand, what I think we see is when you do this work, and if you're sitting in a company, and you've just been sort of like coasting, and you're not really passionate about it, it's like you're probably going to make it shift and a change because you're not going to tolerate being in a place that you're not passionate about or a mission that you don't care about. And I find that when people are mission aligned, and then they find other like-minded people and they create remarkable results.
Sure. It's all about the passion. It's about being, 100% in what you're doing and believing in it, right? Like, like you said, if you're not in it, you're not in it. But no, that's good stuff there. I like that. Looking at your website, you talk about quantum neuro reset therapy. What is that? That sounds interesting.
It is interesting. So Charlie will tell you I'm addicted to learning, and he's right. And I've been trained in many, many, many modalities, but my favorite and my most recent is I'm a certified advanced practitioner of quantum neuro reset therapy, and I've never seen anything like it. It's so efficient and effective. But basically, through using light and doing neurological testing, you find what brain lobe is out of balance, and you then find the emotional tissue in the body that's related to it. And we use lasers, and it's all kinds of things. There's quite a protocol, but basically you find how it's impacting your adrenal system, your nervous system, the emotional pathway, and you do a reset. And all of this takes maybe 20 minutes. And the body is what tells the story, not the person. And you do this reset and it's done. And I've trained in EMDR. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's eye movement desensitization reprocessing therapy. And it's, highly acclaimed and researched, and, the VA uses it. And it's similar to that. It's just not as labor intensive. It's I don't know even how to explain it. It's miraculous. And the stories, the shifts I've seen people make is mind blowing. So basically you're getting rid of any of that programming or adverse experience or trauma or negative pattern or kind of core driver using this modality. It's amazing.
Is it similar? I mean, obviously there's some technology there, but is it similar to, like, if you were to hypnotize someone and age regression? Is that something that?
No,
Totally different.
Totally different.
What other qualifications do you have? Because I'm looking at it and I'm seeing a lot of interesting information on here. Like, what other qualifications do you have?
Me?
Yeah.
Personally? Oh, I've been trained in so many different things. I don't even know where to begin. But all of it, all of it is really about this, what I call personal sovereignty, which is for us to really remember who we are and why we're here and have our sense of purpose. And to do that, we have to clear the gunk, the stories, the programming, the trauma, the, adverse experiences. And that's really a lot of what I do.
How do you do that though? Like, I mean, is that, like, say I come into your office and I want to do that. Like, what would that look like?
Yeah, it depends. It depends upon where, I meet the person where they're at and kind of where they are on their path and what it is they're needing. So, someone might need QNRT. Someone might need grounding and, more of breath work, embodiment work. Some people might want deeper dives into their spiritual life or, working as an energetic being. It really depends upon where the person's at. Because we're all at different places. Maybe a past life regression, maybe just there's something called acceptance and ACT, acceptance and compassion. I can't remember the name of it. Acceptance and compassion therapy. I mean, it could, could be at whatever modality that's right for them. And what I say to people, it's not their personality that finds me, it's their soul. I mean, I've always worked with souls. I mean, I've been able to see energy and auras since I was young. So that's always been, now I work with horses and it's that energetic piece.
So can I say one thing? Okay.
No, go ahead.
So you said if I come into your office, like for Maureen, if you're going to come into her office, you're coming into not just a regular office. There's a lot of people who work with her that sort of say, oh my God, I dreamt about you last night. I mean, the work doesn't happen in the office.
Right.
That's just part of the work.
Yeah.
And that's
true.
what you're talking about, is like you're working at a soul level. So you're not really working with, the time, that hour of time. You're working on a sort of on a timeless basis, but you're working with people that will allow you to on a multidimensional level.
Yeah. I do work a lot on the astral with people, and they do, I show up in their meditation or their ayahuasca experience or their sleep. Because when I commit to work with someone, I'm, it's on that level, not I have to talk because their brain wants it, but that's not the work that's happening.
Sure. I'll see you tonight later on.
Yeah. On the astral.
Charlie, how long did it take you to like kind of let your left side of your brain like let go of this, stop analyzing it? Like, was it something that was like, did you just accept it right away, or was it like, man, you just kept getting in your own way, kind of like not really believing in this stuff?
I think I stopped about 5 years from now.
Oh man.
I'm a work in process, for sure. And I work to try to get out of my own way, and I've made a lot of progress, but I can still get in my own way. I still can ruminate. I still can tell stories. I'm, and then somebody will kick my ass, and then, but yeah. So I that's why I say I'm not there yet.
Sure. Have you done past life regression on him? On you, Charlie? Have you had one yet?
A lot of past life regressions. It's actually kind of fun. I've had past life experiences, and I've had past life regressions. And actually, as a musician, I've actually written songs about some of those experiences. They've been
really?
Cool. Yeah.
Like, tell me one about the most interesting experience. What about the most intense past life?
Oh, there's one that's going to be on my third album if I ever get in it. And we were on our honeymoon in Ireland, and I had been in Ireland many years before, and I was on a golf trip, and we drove past this place called Dingle Bay, and I looked over, and I looked to my on my left, and I'm just like, holy shit, I have to go there. And I was like, it was too late at night. And so but then like I found this song by Mary Black about Dingle Beach, and it would make me emotional. And then, and then we went to Dingle Beach on our honeymoon. And I just had this really powerful emotional experience of remembering a life with Maureen that was both sort of, had elements of Africa and Ireland in it. And then being there, I would sort of say that I found part of my soul that I reclaimed there, that I'd left there at some other point in time. And it was incredibly powerful. And just the knowing and the remembering was just like, then, once I had that, it was like really easy to write a song about it.
That's so cool. Like Maureen probably already knows. She's like, yeah, I already know that was going to happen. That's why we went there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. One of the things I really appreciate about Maureen is that she doesn't like tell you, like she allows you, she knows when to say certain things, but she does it like, I'm sure she knew about this before we ever even got on the airplane, that this was going to happen, because this is who she is. And at the same time, she's really patient, because it's not about her knowing, it's about the supporting of you knowing, and so that you can heal yourself, if that makes sense.
Oh, that makes total sense.
Yeah, I don't, the personal power is really important to me. So I do not take that from people. So I don't predict the future. I don't tell them things. When I do past life regressions, they're doing it and I'm just watching it. I don't tell them anything. I don't want to influence them, because that's what this is all about, is breaking free of all of that. So most of my work is just about holding space and bringing in the energies and being present and witnessing, and the unconditional love. I mean, my students and my clients over the years have said, you can say anything to me because you say it with so much love. Like, I get away with really calling people out on stuff because ultimately it's just unconditional love, naming something that they're ready to hear. And that's primarily how I work.
And I think this is like, our planet is in sore need of remembering what unconditional love is, because I think a lot of people think of love as like a Valentine's Day card with roses and, romantic love or whatever. But what I've learned, from Maureen and others as I've been on my journey is unconditional love is actually really fierce. It really holds you accountable. It kicks your ass, and in a very compassionate way, but it's not going to tolerate, it's not going to tolerate
Dumbing yourself down.
Dumbing yourself down. Yeah.
Sure. Gonna hold you accountable, right? Man, this is awesome. Like, you guys are awesome. Like, you guys, this is fun. How can people find more out about you and in the Institute?
So shiftit.com is our website, shiftit.com. Like I said, I'm a teacher on Insight Timer. BBC Collaborative is our other website, where all of our companies are that we're involved in. And Charlie and I are in the process of, we're going to do a podcast called Deeper, about exploring, integrating, and connecting, because as Charlie said, he's connected globally to spiritual teachers, to entrepreneurs, to investors, to scientists. And we're going to really start talking about what is deeper.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Who's the first guest?
I haven't asked him yet.
We know who he wanted to be.
We know who he wanted to be. I know he's going to say yes, but I'm going to call him and ask him as opposed to revealing it to him.
But our guests will be, everyone from Sharon Salzberg, who's a dear friend of ours. She's the leader, meditation teacher leader around.
Yeah, I just talked to her not too long ago on here.
Yeah,
she's
a dear
awesome.
friend. And the scientists like Richie Davidson, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, scientist, neuroscientist, to
investors. We're going to talk to investment bankers.
Yeah, definitely investors, right?
Not just investment bankers. We're going to talk to, we might talk to a politician or two. We're going to talk to folks from the psychedelic community. We're going to talk to,
that's awesome.
To people who are, working in the nonprofit world.
You got to get a hold of the guys over at Johns Hopkins. They're doing a lot in psychedelics. They're doing.
No, we know them.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
We had our annual partner meeting for Bridge Builders a year and a half ago was at Johns Hopkins with Roland Griffiths and the team there that have done such amazing work to help sort of explain what to help do the research to prove the benefits of psilocybin and other psychedelics, and really help to create a framework where we can integrate these tools as therapy assisted tools to really create healing, because they've done amazing science.
Sure, absolutely. and maps too, right? Like I'm a psychology major at University of Baltimore. And I know I'm the old student, but I'm going back because it's my passion. I love consciousness, I said. And when I go apply for their graduate program, I think they partnered with MAPS. When you graduate University of Baltimore with the counseling background, you'll be able to be a practitioner for MAPS, like, with MDMA, psilocybin and things like that. Like, it's a new science. It's a new modality that is proving time and time again that it is effective. Like, MAPS just went through the third phase of FDA testing, right? Like 60-70% of PTSD patients are no longer considered having symptoms of PTSD. Right. It's amazing. It's amazing.
And that's one of the issues is we need therapists. We need trained therapists. That's one of the things we're involved in. It's like, how do we create this ecosystem? Because MDMA is going to get FDA approval, and I think psilocybin's right behind it. So that's awesome that you're doing that.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to need you.
The barrier, the barrier to that field being successful is not whether or not the medicines work, because the medicines work. The barrier is who's holding space for the experience, creating the set and setting, and helping people, to define the intention and then do the integration work.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's really cool that you're being trained to be able to be, to work with MAPS. And we're supporting in various ways, different places that are doing deep levels of training, because the level of training of the therapist is going to be really important to the success of that field.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Fun story though. The guy from GoDaddy, the guy who started that, is a graduate from University of Baltimore, and he went to Vietnam. He was in Vietnam, and he said he never came back. He never came back until he did a therapy session. I think it was either with psilocybin or MDMA. He said when he did that, he finally came back from over there, and it's that impactful. And I just really hope that people stop putting the stigma on it just because it's considered a drug. It is the therapy, the drug and the therapy that is really effective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Man, I can talk to you guys all night. I'll start with you first, Charlie. Last question. What do you want your legacy to be?
I don't think of that. I don't think of what I want my legacy to be. I'm a change agent, and I am leaving a wake. And I believe one of my legacies will have been to co-create a new global industry or movement around expanding consciousness, and the legacy that I'll say that I'll be most proud of is, being, I was not a good dad, when I raised my two kids, and I met Maureen, and I really learned a whole new way of parenting. And I'm going to leave a legacy where my children don't need to wait until their 50s to sort of wake up, or their 40s, I guess, is when I started. They had the opportunity in their 20s, and so the legacy that I'll leave, is 3 kids who are pursuing their own path, and who are each remarkable and have very unique gifts, and they get to do whatever they want with those.
That's beautiful, man. Before I go to you, Maureen, thank you for sharing that. I know it's tough to say that, especially as a father, to admit that and be transparent. Thank you for sharing that. What about you, Maureen?
Well, I don't think in like leaving a legacy in those terms, because I think that's an ego thing. What I know I'm doing is I've been healing the lineage of my own family system, because we bring in our lineage, right? We bring in stuff, whether it's from past lives, but also just from our lineage. So I've been healing that. So that is trickling down, to my daughter, my biological daughter. And, we're completing some of that stuff. And I think, what I really am passionate about is helping people transition, into a new world is all I can say. And letting go of the old compressed constraints that we've been in, and being that unconditional love, because that's what holds the space for that to happen. I don't know that it's a legacy as much as I know that is what I'm passionate about. And that's what I will do till I leave, till I transition.
Both beautiful responses. Charlie, Maureen, thank you guys so much for joining the show. Maureen, I'll be talking to you later tonight in the astral.
Yes, well.
Thank you guys. I cannot thank you guys enough.
Somehow, I don't know, then I'll say,
yeah.